Hello, this is my journal of what's been happening this past few days. The biggest thing was that my father in law that I just met, he just left today back to the state where he lives. And this spouse, when he was here, didn't want to give me sex. But more importantly, she asked me to take him to the airport, and I didn't do it. So my mother was supposed to take her at 5 o'clock in the morning. That is, go with them. But my mother couldn't get up or wake up. So this spouse took her dad, 70 some years old, I think, to the airport. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, I went to the house and I found out that my mother was there. I went because my son wanted to go eat breakfast. And my mother told me that she had gotten, I don't know if it was one phone call or more, that they were lost 4 times on the way to the airport. And that they kept calling her from their trip. So this spouse has had quite an adventure today, going to the airport. And this spouse says, "You never help me when I need you." And I tell her, "You complain about my driving. You don't buy the car I want. You don't even sit in the car." Several years ago, when she had the $100,000, I opened the door to the pickup and I said, "Come, let's sit down and see how it feels." And she said, "No!" And the salesman walked away. So I said, "All right. So we don't have, you don't want to sit in the pickup? Then you bought a minivan without even asking me if I wanted a minivan?" Or I said, "Let's buy both cars." But she had her own opinion of what to do with the money. So we've been opposite of our dreams for a long time. And then when I drove her minivan a couple of times, she used to say that I don't drive very well, I'm too slow. And then the kids start arguing in the back seat. So I found out that if I do get angry and I park the car at some parking lot on the way home or on the way to Walmart, on the way to Walmart we make it, but on the way back they start arguing, the kids. So I found out that my triggers to my anger are when I'm driving. And when I'm driving with other people. That is, when I'm driving with these people here, the family. So I could drive, but only when I have my son with me and he behaves. Or even my daughter behaves when I'm driving with her alone. But when the 2 kids are there, they start arguing. That irritates me. So now the spouse is getting a taste of her own medicine. I read the book by Dumont, The Power of Focus. It's really the power of concentration, but I changed the word to focus. Focus on what you're doing. Like a carpenter is hitting a nail, he has to look and concentrate, otherwise he could smash his thumb. And in that book it says that no one can make you do things that you don't want to do. So this spouse cuts her own grass. I just clean the machine. And I tell her, "Please help me clean it." But she says no. So she cuts the grass, because I tell her, "If you help me clean it, then after each use, then I'll help you cut the grass." Because sometimes it rains and you need to clean the lawnmower out on the bottom so that all that grass won't get stuck there, so it will continue to work. But she doesn't want to do that. She cuts it after the rain, so I don't help her. It's not the best marriage. Alright, so that's what's been going on. At the park, there was a boy that recognized me. And he said, "Didn't you have a child care?" And gave us popsicles in the backyard. And I said, "Yes." And then I recognized him. "You had lots of hair back then, and now you have short hair." He says, "Yeah, yeah." And then where this goes is that you can't hire family to do a business with you most of the time. Because I remember that child, for a special reason, his mother worked at a bank, and this spouse wouldn't let me homeschool my children, so she would run out in the mornings and take our kids to elementary school. And she wasn't home when the doorbell rang. And she told me to get up and answer that doorbell and receive this customer, the boy that saw me at the park. And I never heard that doorbell. I was waiting right there in the sofa, and I never heard that doorbell. So the mom said, "I'm sorry, I have to go to a real daycare. I cannot be calling in to work that I don't have childcare. And I cannot be arriving late." So I goofed up on a customer there by not waking up in time to open the door to receive our only customer. Maybe there was one more. Who knows? Yeah, there was one more, because I remember the other little girl. Now that I remember him, the other little girl had a cell phone. 3 years old. All right, we thought it was not real. It was a real cell phone. 3 years old. That's how you remember. And then at the park, there was another. Well, there were a bunch of other little boys, but these two were brothers. One big, one small. Both of them heavier. And they were playing tag with my son. But then they wanted to pet my dog, and I said, "Okay, go ahead." The younger one. And I see them just about every time I go there, or they go at least twice a week, because I've seen them before. And the younger boy, he says to me, "I'm with my..." Oh, I asked him, where's your mom, or where's your dad, or where's your guardian? Do they know you're here?" And he says, "Oh yeah, she says right there. She says you're a bad person." I said, "Really?" And then he says, "But I don't believe her." I said, "Wow." And then I told him, "Yes, there are good people, there are bad people. But you could play tag with my son. I mean, there's no big deal about that." So now I've heard things. In this book by Dumont, The Power of Concentration, he says that what the highest level, or he doesn't say the highest level, but the higher level, the highest personality you could accomplish is by being so there's an exercise he describes. Put two eyes on the mirror, and I put 2 dots, right, with a permanent marker. And that is like God watching you, or that is like just to remind you that you're on camera, people are watching everything you do. And that when you see yourself, don't see yourself like a police officer. The police officer says, "That's a criminal, that's a criminal, that's a wife beater, that's another type of criminal." That's how police officers see you. Opinion. I've read books about police officers. And what police officers say is, be prepared to shoot every person you see that day. So if you get that into that police officer mentality, which I was in security guard, so you get into that field, you really don't trust people very well. And other people can tell that you don't trust them. So this guy, the power of concentration, he says, whenever you see those two dots, just remind yourself that in the mirror, right? You're looking at yourself. You see a person that's honest and a person that is sincere, honest. He does with his body what he says he's going to do with his mouth. That's called congruence. Like when you look at Gandhi, all right? Look at movies about Gandhi. He made everybody look bad because everybody else was doing bad things. And Gandhi would just say, they will correct themselves. Opinion. This is what I think Gandhi was saying. They would correct themselves when they deal with me. And every time that Gandhi wanted to speak with somebody, he would meditate, concentrate on that person doing what Gandhi asked. It's like in a lawyer's argument, you're trying to convince people to believe what you say instead of what. And there are like, you could point a finger and say, this guy is a criminal, right? Or let me see, this guy is a criminal. Or you could say with a gesture of the hand, this young man, or gosh, how do I get the hand? Okay, point. This person here on my right, your left, this person here is a good person. What I'm getting at is, you could point a finger and say this guy's a criminal, or you could gesture with the hand and say this person is a good young man. All right, so I told you what's been going on this week. I'll leave it off with a story. I spoke with a neighbor after it rained the other day, and I mentioned how there were a bunch of bats at the park at night. And he said, "Oh, I used to have at least 50 bats in my house." I said, "Really?" And then he said, "But they left." I said, "Really? How?" And he said, "Oh, when I started playing the drums, they moved out." So that was wonderful. The bats moved out when he started playing the drums. That was just comical. All right. So everything's fine. And this old man, my father-in-law, this particular father-in-law, he was so much fun when he was here. Last night, I saw him get excited a couple of times, but last night he was walking fast. I found out that he wears the same type of underwear that I wear. They're not boxers. They're gray, black. Well, those are the two colors I have. And I was like, he was making his suitcase. And he made his bed when he left. My mother said, "Did you see how he made his bed when he left?" Yeah, he's a very organized man. He said that to my mother, and he had tears, that if he was ever born again or he ever had to relive his life, he would have all his kids with one woman, and this way none of his kids would suffer. Some of them have told him things like, "I don't need your last name. Keep it." I don't need the United States citizenship. Keep it. What, you show up when I'm 20 years old? Get out of my face. So he's had some bad experiences with his own children. But over here, we welcomed him for several reasons. One is the only grandpa my kids biological. No, my mother's too. Okay, but he's only the only male grandpa that they're gonna meet. Yeah, because my mother's female. My dad is dead. Her mother, the spouse's mother, is dead. So it was quite an experience. They went to a restaurant together on the last day, and they went to the doctor's appointments. All right, so that's how that worked out. Enjoy your life, be better than I am. Be sure that you behave in such a way that everybody trusts you. And even though everybody won't trust you, the police will never trust you. I've met some of these people, religious people particularly. I mean, co-workers. They were weird. But the one I'm talking about, Mr. Suffering, that was his name, by the way. He told me that he only bought educational games for his children. He didn't buy any of those other games. Now at the time I didn't even have kids, so now I see the difference. Time wasting games, nah. Now if there's something like, well, even Monopoly, you could learn board games. It's time wasting, but I would recommend Bibleopoly. I've never played it, but I heard that you have to help somebody. In order to win, you have to help somebody. And whoever helps the most people wins with Bibleopoly. All right, be better than I am. You are his champion here on earth right now. God created you. You are his champion. You can, you will, you must. Enjoy your life.